Way back in 2001, Norway decided to purchase 14 NH-90 helicopters as part of the Nordic Standard Helicopter Program, or NSHP, that it had established as a joint procurement effort with several other, Nordic countries. For Norway, 8 NH-90 helicopters would go to the Coast Guard, while the other 6 would serve on the Navy's frigates in an anti-submarine warfare, or ASW, role. But as we've covered extensively on this channel already, Norway had a horrible experience with the NH-90 and ended up dropping the chopper, eventually working out a settlement agreement with NH Industries for a few €100 million. But this video is not about the NH-90. Instead, it's about what helicopter might replace the now phased-out NH-90s. Sure, it looks like some helicopters have already been ordered to replace the NH-90 in its Coast Guard role, but it looks like Norway's military procurement agency is taking its time in deciding on an ASW platform. On this front, the race appears to be down to 2 choppers, the MH60R Seahawk, produced by Lockheed Martin, or the AW101 Merlin, which is now a product of Italy's Leonardo. Let's compare these 2 helicopters and see if there's a clear choice for Norway's ASW needs. Maybe before jumping into an overview of the 2 helicopters and their technical specifications, we should first look at what helicopters do in an anti-submarine warfare type of role. In this type of role, the job of a helicopter is to find/detect an enemy submarine and destroy it. To do this, it needs to be fitted with a range of sensors and weapons and be able to have sufficient space to accommodate crew for operating equipment. When it comes to sensors, sonobuoys are one of the main tools for ASW operations. These are small, expendable, tube-shaped acoustic sensors designed to be airdropped into the water to detect, locate, and track submarines. Helicopters may also have a dipping sonar system, which sees a sonar transducer lowered from a cable into the water to detect and track submarines. FLIR, or forward-looking infrared systems, may also be useful for ASW ops. As a passive detection sensor, FLIR may be able to identify thermal signatures from surfaced submarines, snorkeling diesel-electric submarines, or periscopes. On the weapons side, an ASW helicopter will need to be able to carry lightweight homing torpedoes as its primary weapon. Depth charges may also be included in a helicopter's anti-submarine toolbox. And then when it comes to helicopter performance itself, a good ASW chopper will be capable of operating day and night in all weather conditions. It'll also need to have a good amount of range/flight time so it can do more of its job before needing to return to the ship and refuel. There are no doubt other factors to consider, such as maintenance requirements, compatibility with allied forces, etc., but those types of considerations are present with almost all types of military equipment. And so, getting to our 2 contenders, let's start with the American MH-60R, or Romeo, also known as the Seahawk. According to navaltechnology.com, the MH-60 Romeo was developed specifically for anti-submarine and anti-surface warfare. This machine has a length of 20 meters, a fuselage width of about 2.4 meters, and has a maximum takeoff weight of about 10.7 metric tons. Produced by Sikorsky Aircraft Corporation, a subsidiary of Lockheed Martin, it's said to currently be one of the most advanced naval helicopters available. The Seahawk is capable of operating from frigates, destroyers, corvettes, and aircraft carriers, and has the ability to conduct fully independent or coordinated ASW missions. The helicopters are equipped with a sonobuoy launcher, forward-looking infrared or FLIR, multi-mode radar, dipping sonar, an integrated self-defense suite, and 4 weapon stations to carry homing torpedoes and anti-ship missiles. In terms of weaponry, Vertical Magazine explains that MH-60Rs have 3 external weapon stations, 2 on the left and 1 on the right, and that these can carry either fuel tanks or weapons loads. The Seahawk can fire Hellfire missiles for anti-surface warfare and are capable of carrying rockets with the Advanced Precision Kill Weapon System, or APKWS, a kit that adds laser guidance to small rockets, turning them into guided precision weapons. The Royal Australian Navy, for example, highlights that its MH-60Rs can be fitted with as many as 38 APKWS rockets fired from 2 LAU 61G/A digital rocket launchers. The helicopter can be armed with up to 3 Mark 45, 50 or 54 torpedoes for anti-submarine warfare missions. The helicopter is equipped with crew-served weapons for close-in defense and surface warfare, typically featuring the GAU-21 50 caliber machine gun and the M240D 7.62mm medium machine gun. These guns are mounted at the cabin door to provide suppressive fire against small boats, personnel, or for force protection. This helicopter also has basic electronic warfare or EW capabilities, including the AN/ALQ-210 Electronic Support Measures or ESM system for threat detection, and can be fitted with the Advanced Offboard Electronic Warfare or AOEW system for active jamming. According to the helicopter's webpage with Lockheed Martin, the MH60R has a 95 to 98% availability rate and a flight hour cost of $5,000 or about 4,250 euros. In terms of endurance, numbers will always vary with the type of mission and load. However, the Seahawk typically has a mission endurance of approximately 3.3 to 4 hours. One source states that it features a range of about 400 nautical miles, although this is understood to be its ferry range when stripped of its payload. Nonetheless, the Lockheed Martin site says it has an operational range of 100 nautical miles for anti-submarine warfare or ASW missions. This figure will, however, likely be lower if loaded with weapons. Cost for a new MH60R Seahawk helicopter will obviously vary with order volume, but it's said that one airframe is valued at $34 to over $40 million. And then there's the competition, the AW101, which was formerly the MH-101 Merlin. This machine has a length of nearly 23 meters, a fuselage width of over 4.5 meters, and has a maximum takeoff weight of about 15.6 metric tons. With these figures, we can see that the Merlin is a much larger machine than the Seahawk. Used in various roles beyond ASW, Norway already operates this type of helicopter for its search and rescue operations. The AW101s, when configured for autonomous ASW, include dipping sonar, sonar buoys, and an electronic warfare suite. NavalTechnology.com adds that the helicopter has 4 torpedoes/depth charges in its weaponry and can also be armed with anti-ship missiles, air-to-air missiles, air-to-surface missiles, rockets, and gun systems. The typical range and endurance of the AW101 are 700 nautical miles and 6 hours respectively. This is twice that of the Seahawk. The AW101 can be fitted with crew-served weapons at up to 3 main locations, the large side cargo door and 2 rear cabin window positions. These positions are designed for 12.7mm or 50 caliber or 7.62mm machine guns to provide fire suppression. When it comes to reliability, the AW101 is right up there with the MH60R. Indeed, Norway's existing SAR Queens are said to have consistently achieved greater than 99% availability. Where the Merlin is weaker than the Seahawk is on operating cost. Indeed, using the UK's Royal Navy Merlins as an example, it's said that 1 hour of flight for a fully loaded Merlin Mark II is £15,871, equivalent to over 18,300 euros. That's more than 3 times the Seahawk, although it's unclear if the numbers from Lockheed Martin are also based on a fully loaded helicopter. We also have to remember that the Merlin Mark II is getting fairly old at this point, meaning a newer AW101 model should have lower operating costs. And for the acquisition cost, figures are again very flexible, but an AW101 for naval operations is said to be between $50 and $70 million per unit. However, as highlighted by Defense News reporting, the inclusion of logistics packages and ASW equipment pushes the cost up, which would also be true for the MH60R, of course. Poland, for example, spent $430 million on 4 AW101s in 2019. It's also worth mentioning that the AW101 has 3 turboshaft engines, where the Seahawk has 2. And so, for the Romeo, if you have an engine failure, you're down 50% power and have to start shutting down mission systems. Maybe fuel tanks or other weight will need to be jettisoned to be able to claw back enough power to get out of a hairy situation and fly to safety. On the AW101, if you lose one, you still have 2 engines, and it's still a pretty comfortable situation. something that could be a pretty big deal when you're far away from land and you can't put the bird down anywhere you'd like. So those are all the facts and figures, but of course that's only part of the list of considerations. Interoperability with allies will be one of those non-technical factors to consider. For the MH60R, Norwegian ASW crews are on exchange with Danish MH60R crews. As of late 2025, this partnership includes joint training and partial Norwegian crews on Danish helicopters. For the AW101, we know that the Type 26 frigates are to replace Norway's Nansen frigates soon. The new incoming frigates will see close cooperation with the Royal Navy, who will operate near-identical ships, with their Merlins most often being used for ASW operations. You might think the UK's old Merlins will have a good deal of commonality with newer AW101s, but in reality a new Norwegian helicopter used for ASW would be considerably different, reducing the opportunity for synergy. In terms of existing supply chain, it's a bit of a draw, as Norway already operates both helicopter types. The AW101 is used for search and rescue, while the MH60Rs are used by the Norwegian Coast Guard for maritime surveillance, search and rescue, and resource control. As you may already be well aware, European systems are politically preferred in the current climate, and so the AW101 has the upper hand there. So what do we make of all this information? Well, the MH60R is the smaller helicopter and thus has less range and endurance than the AW101. At the same time, it's a cheaper machine both in terms of acquisition cost and operating cost. Norway's Coast Guard already has experience with this model, and cross-training is already taking place with Danish forces. For the AW101, it's larger and more expensive. The main benefit to this size is increased weapons and sensor capacity, as well as longer range and endurance. Larger helicopters are also generally more stable in adverse weather conditions. One helicopter being American and the other European isn't likely to be a deciding factor, as other metrics will have more weight in the decision-making process. And so we can see that there are clear advantages for each helicopter, which doesn't exactly make it an easy choice, at least in our opinion. Perhaps if cost is the most important factor, then the Seahawk is the way to go. But if budget allows, the AW101 appears to be the more versatile chopper. But what do you think of all this? What ASW helicopter do you think Norway should have on the back of its future frigates? Let us know by leaving a comment.